When success speaks, criticism follows. Bishop David Oyedepo and the Living Faith family have again come under attack, but history shows that success is always a target. Recently, Rev Isaac Omolehin made a controversial statement, saying he pities members of Living Faith Church.
People need to see you and without thinking that this is Rev Omolehin. They need to see you in church and recognize that àwọn ará word assembly lele.
Wọ́n nílò láti rí ọ nínú ìjọ kan sì mọ̀ lọ́wọ́ kan náà pé these are word assembly members.
Ó sáwọn míì náà tẹ́ máa rí tẹ́ bá ti rí wọn ẹ ti mọ̀ pé àwọn winner lele.
There are others you will see, once you see them you readily know these are winners members.
Àwọn COZA lele.
These are COZA members.
Àwọn ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì eléyìí tí ó jẹ́ ọ̀yá kìlómítà tó máa kó ìyẹ́ odídẹrẹ́ àti ìyẹ́ àlùkò tó máa kó sápò ẹ ti mọ̀ pé àwọn ará bẹ̀rẹ̀ lélẹ̀.
You want to see these other churches, their members, those of Pastor Yakilome.
Ẹ ti máa mọ̀ pé àwọn ará
you will know this is where they are from.
Ẹ ti mọ̀ pé àwọn ará bẹ̀yẹn lélẹ̀.
You will know this is where these ones are from.
Àánú àwọn tó ń lọ ọbẹ̀ sì ṣe mí torí ọjọ́ táwọn olùdásí yẹn bá ti lọ ìṣekúṣe tó fi pilẹ̀ ìjọ yẹn náà ni wọ́n máa.
And I pity people who attend such churches because when the founders are gone, it's that same legacy of all sorts that they will be following up.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá kó gbogbo wa jọ Nàìjíríà kò sí ọ̀gá mi láàrin wọn.
If you bring all of us together in Nigeria, I have no leader among them.
Ẹ máa bí wọn ọdún wo lẹ bẹ̀rẹ̀ wàásù.
Ask them, when did you start preaching?
Èmi bẹ̀rẹ̀ tèmi 50 years ago.
I started preaching àádọ́ta ọdún sẹ́yìn.
Mo dẹ̀ still wà, we are still counting.
And I'm still on it, àṣìǹbáṣẹ́ lọ.
Èmi ní ogún rere.
I have a goodly heritage.
Mi ò bá lọ́wọ́ àwọn bàbá tó kọ́ mi níṣẹ́.
I did not meet it in the hand of my predecessors.
Mi ò rí ìyàwó bàbá Ọbádáre rí.
I've never seen Pa Ọbádáre's wife.
Mi ò rí ìyàwó bàbá Aríyé rí.
I've never seen Pa Aríyé's wife.
Kí màdámù yẹn wá kó sí ṣòkòtò.
Where the madam will now put on trousers, elderly woman.
Ẹ ti máa náà rí wọn gbogbo àwọn eléyìí àwọn ìyá oníṣègùsì àgbà ìyá.
And you see them everywhere, all these are
àwọn tó kọ́ àwa oúnjẹ àgbàlá jẹ.
Those who taught us, it was elderly.
Ẹ lè rí wọn nínú ìṣekúṣe.
You can't find them in immorality.
Àwa ní ogún rere.
We have a goodly heritage.
Now, let's be clear. This video is not to attack Rev Omolehin, who is a senior minister of the gospel in his own right. But our purpose here is to highlight the undeniable truth that Bishop Oyedepo's ministry remains unshakable, unstoppable, and divinely mandated. So, let's take a closer look. Why is Living Faith Church not an institution to be pitied, but one to be celebrated? The legacy of Living Faith Church. When you talk about Living Faith Church, also known as Winners Chapel, you are not just talking about another congregation. You are talking about a movement that has transformed lives across the globe. Global impact. From its humble beginnings in Kaduna in 1981, this ministry has expanded to more than 20,000 churches across 65 nations of the world. That is not just growth, that is a global impact that cannot be ignored. Educational impact. Covenant University, one of the leading private universities in Africa, raising a new generation of leaders. Landmark University, transforming agriculture and rural development. Faith Academy schools across the nation, instilling discipline and godly values in young people. This is not the footprint of a ministry to be pitied. Humanitarian works, through scholarships, welfare programs, skill empowerment, and massive employment opportunities, millions have been lifted from poverty and hopelessness. Spiritual heritage, but beyond the physical achievements, the spiritual heritage is undeniable. Millions of souls have been saved, marriages restored, bodies healed, destinies transformed, and nations impacted. That is why, when someone says they pity members of Living Faith, the real truth is this: you cannot pity a people walking in divine heritage. Instead, you celebrate them. Winners are not victims. They are testimonies of God's covenant faithfulness. The power of a spiritual mandate. One of the most important things we must recognize about Bishop Oyedepo's ministry is that it is built on a spiritual mandate. In May 1981, God spoke directly to him, saying, "The hour has come to liberate the world from all oppression of the devil through the preaching of the word of faith, and I am sending you to undertake this task." That was not ambition. That was not imitation. That was a divine commission. Now, how do you know if someone truly carries a mandate? By the fruits. Matthew 7 verse 20 says, "By their fruits ye shall know them." And if we look at the fruits of Living Faith Church, The undeniable growth, the testimonies, the changed lives, the impact on education, government, business, and families, the evidence speaks for itself. This is why we must emphasize that faith, prosperity, and kingdom impact are not contradictions to holiness. In fact, they are results of obedience. Psalm 112 tells us, "Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, wealth and riches shall be in his house." Prosperity in God's kingdom is not carnality. It is covenant proof. So when we evaluate Bishop Oyedepo's life and ministry, it is clear, he is not just a preacher, but a man on divine assignment. Why success attracts criticism? Now, let's be honest. The bigger the ministry, the louder the attacks. Bishop David Oyedepo is arguably the most visible pastor in Africa. His voice, his books, his teachings, and his ministry have gone far beyond Nigeria into every continent. And because of that visibility, anything he says or does immediately trends. History shows us this pattern. Jesus was criticized more than anyone else in his time. The apostles were accused of turning the world upside down. Every genuine move of God has always attracted resistance, envy, or misunderstanding. That is why one wise saying is so true: the price of leadership is criticism. So instead of pitying the winner's family, members should understand, criticism is actually proof of growth, proof of relevance, and proof of influence. The church that nobody talks about is the church that nobody sees. But when your impact shakes nations, you will attract both admiration and attack. The truth is, no matter the criticism, Living Faith Church has remained on course, growing, expanding, and fulfilling prophecy. That is the mark of true success. Addressing the specific criticisms. Let's address some of the specific criticisms directly. Number 1. Pity for members. The claim that members of Living Faith Church are to be pitied is false. Winners members are not blind followers, they are living testimonies of transformed lives. Many came broken, sick, jobless, and without hope. Today, they stand as CEOs, graduates, healthy families, and joyful believers. You don't pity testimonies. You celebrate them. Number 2. Accusation of immorality or dressing. Some people argue about outward appearances. But holiness is first in the heart, not in the clothes. Jesus rebuked the Pharisees because they emphasized outward righteousness but ignored the weightier matters of the heart. At Living Faith, the focus is not legalism, it is kingdom impact. Members are taught values, discipline, and the fear of God. And the results show in their lives. Number 3. Claims of legacy failure after Bishop Oyedepo. Some say that after Bishop Oyedepo is gone, the ministry will collapse. But let's be clear, Living Faith is not a one-man show. There are multiple bishops, resident pastors, and a well-structured leadership system in place. Succession is not an afterthought, it is already a strategy. Remember, the same was said about Moses, Elijah, and even Jesus. But God always preserves his work beyond one vessel. Number 4. Superiority in ministry claims. Another accusation is that Bishop Oyedepo acts as though he is superior to other ministers. But in the body of Christ, no man is another man's ogre. Christ is the head of the church. Different callings bring different emphases. Some focus on holiness, others on deliverance, others on prosperity, and others on missions. Winner's mandate is clear: faith and liberation. Respecting that mandate does not mean despising others. The kingdom is diverse, but Christ is one. Lessons for the body of Christ. So what can the body of Christ learn from all this? First, the church must avoid unnecessary divisions. Jesus said a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Whether holiness movement, prosperity gospel, or deliverance ministry, we are all soldiers in the same army of Christ. Second, respect the diversity of callings. The same Spirit works in different ways through different vessels. No stream of ministry cancels the other. Instead, together, we form a complete picture of God's plan. Finally, we must never allow criticism to overshadow kingdom advancement. Our focus should be soul winning, discipleship, and preparing the world for the coming of Christ. At the end of the day, it's not about who preaches louder, it's about who fulfills their mandate. Indeed, success attracts attack. But the Living Faith family remains unstoppable. Bishop David Oyedepo's fruits, millions of lives touched, churches planted, schools built, destinies restored, these are undeniable proof of divine calling. So instead of pity, what we should give is thanks. Thanks to God for raising such a vessel, and thanks for the grace that multiplies through him. As believers, let's focus on the main mandate of Christ: soul winning, kingdom expansion, and walking in love. Because at the end of the day, history never remembers the critics. It only remembers the builders. And Bishop Oyedepo and the Winners family are clearly building for eternity.